I took care of the paralyzed female CEO for 2 years. After she recovered, the first thing she did was propose to her unforgettable first love, the same man who had abandoned her. The media hailed it as a story of undying devotion and ultimate union. I looked up at the giant screen in the square, silently watching the live broadcast of the proposal, and then tossed the ring from my pocket into the trash. Finally, the debt I owed her was repaid. People walking on the pedestrian streets stopped in their tracks, staring up at the outdoor screens. Not just here. Every available screen in South City was showing the same proposal. The image was so sharp that you could even see the faint glimmer of tears in her eyes. The layout of the scene screamed Gail Liu's design. In those final months of her recovery, she had spent her time sketching this design herself, even overseeing the style of the fireworks. Back then, she would lean on my chest, eyes full of anticipation, asking me what my favorite flower was. I told her hyacinth. But on the big screen, the proposal was surrounded by a sea of red roses, and the man kneeling in front of her wasn't me. It was Peter, Gail's ex-boyfriend, the star designer. I calmly watched as the proposal unfolded. Gail, wearing a white veil and with tears in her eyes, slid the ring onto Peter's finger. The diamond in the black velvet box sparkled like a star, making my own ring seem insignificant. The girls beside me squealed in delight. Gail Liu, the female CEO of Liu Corporation, is stunning. No wonder she was such a heartbreaker. Looks like the Playgirl finally settled down. I heard Peter gave up everything to take care of Gail while she was paralyzed. What a fairy tale romance ending in marriage! I clenched my wrist, where grayish scars remained from taking care of Gail, and forced a smile. Perfect, I said. She noticed my pale face and awkwardly let go, trying to apologize, but I had already turned and walked away amid the crowd noise. On the giant screen behind me, the couple's passionate kiss was captured as fireworks exploded in the sky over South City. I stopped at a trash can, crouched for a moment to catch my breath, then stood up and pulled out the dull ring from my pocket. It was ugly and tight. Luckily, I had no reason to keep it anymore. Tossing it into the trash, I felt a calm peace. Not a single tear fell. From now on, the debt I owed to the Liu family and to Gail was fully repaid. I was kicked out of Liu Corporation. I used to have my own office, but now I couldn't even find a desk. The HR department handed me a cardboard box. "Assistant Hay, all your things are in here." She lowered her voice, polite but firm. "President Liu personally asked you to leave. You'll get your compensation, so it's best to go quickly." I guess Gail's exact words were to kick me out. With her indifferent, fox-like eyes, she probably didn't even hesitate. I struggled to carry the box. As I passed my old office, I noticed the new occupant, Peter. The space had become his lounge, with scattered design drafts and photos of him and Gail looking intimate. I lowered my gaze, knuckles whitening, as I gripped the box for a moment, then let it go. Forget it. I was pushed at the entrance of the company, and the cardboard box toppled, scattering my things. Too many people had gathered, and someone's high heel stepped on my hand, causing sharp pain. The reporters surged forward with the crowd. I endured the pain just long enough to see Peter walking arm in arm with Gail. He loved the spotlight, even down to his meticulously styled hair. Gail, his partner, looked even dazzling with black hair and red lips. She didn't like crowds, but she leaned into his embrace anyway, cooperating politely. Reporters blocked Peter, thrusting microphones at him. "Mr. Wang, the proposal has dominated the internet for a week. As the leading man, what do you have to say?" He smiled. "I am very grateful that during the 2 years she was at her lowest, I was the one by her side." Gail Liu, eldest daughter of the Liu family, had always been untouchable, at the top of her game. Only after her accident and 2 years of paralysis did she know the coldness of the world. Peter had flown away, leaving me to take care of her. An obvious lie, but Gail seemed pleased, indulging it without argument. She lowered her eyes, smiling gently and helplessly, like a wildfire finally meeting a river. The camera flashes clicked continuously as reporters captured the deep affection between the two. Suddenly, Gail looked straight at me across the crowd. I quietly returned her gaze, smiling faintly, feeling at ease. She frowned subconsciously. During those 2 years, I had been the one by her side too. My debt was fully repaid. The taxi I waited for took forever. I felt a bit hypoglycemic, my stomach aching, so I crouched on the roadside holding it. My hand was red and swollen from being stepped on earlier. Peter and Gail were indeed special to each other. I'd known Gail a long time. As Lou family's eldest daughter, she'd grown up surrounded by rumors. But Peter was the only boyfriend she publicly acknowledged. A rekindled romance was only natural. Suddenly, a car horn blared in front of me. I looked up. A black car had stopped. The window slowly rolled down, revealing Gail's delicate face. Her fingers tapped the steering wheel. My stomach hurt again. My eyelashes trembled slightly. She sneered, eyes mocking. Serves me right. I lowered my eyes. It felt like 2 years ago when Gail treated me the same way. Back then, just being alive was a blessing. Now her later tenderness was just an act. She feared that if I left, no one would take care of her. I ignored her. Peter walked past me and got into the passenger seat. Gail, I'm late. Those reporters were too persistent. I shouldn't have let you go ahead. You could have helped me fend them off. Peter fastened his seatbelt, then saw me. His face went pale. Let's go. We're running late for the party. Gail furrowed her brows, enduring the scene. I watched the engagement live stream. Everything looked perfect, except for the absence of hyacinths. I silently wished them a long, happy marriage. Gail's smile faded, her hand tightening on the window. She heard the blessing, but refused to acknowledge it. That hand bore a wedding ring. Peter was silent, then spoke gently. Gail, don't waste time on irrelevant people. Above me, a soft voice. Michael, don't regret this. She waited, getting no response, sneered, and started the engine. She sped off. I looked after the black car, blankly watching the tail disappear. It reminded me of how she used to race sports cars. Even a blessing from me made her inexplicably angry. She had issues, but I wouldn't regret anything. After waiting ages without a taxi, I resigned myself to fate. My phone buzzed. A message popped up. Where are you? I hesitated, then sent my location. Half an hour later, I found myself in a business car, stiff, holding out my hand. The girl in front of me lowered her eyes, carefully tending to my wounds. Vanessa looked up. Does it hurt? I tensed as she moved, shaking my head. Vanessa lowered her head and blew on my hand, sending a cool sensation that soothed the pain. I flinched and repeated, I said it doesn't hurt. Only then did Vanessa release my hand, replying slowly, didn't hear you. At that moment, I felt like a loyal retainer secretly colluding with an external enemy. Gail's constant companion in all 10 of her battles, there would always be an 11th with Vanessa. From schoolyard brawls to business confrontations, the two had always been mortal enemies. During Gail's 2 years of paralysis, Vanessa had nearly swallowed up her entire business. Even though I no longer had anything to do with Gail, old habits die hard. Vanessa Laley leaned back. There's a banquet tonight. I'm missing a male companion. I lowered my eyes as my wound was finally treated. Will Gail be there too? I asked. Vanessa nodded. I avoided her gaze and after a long silence, finally spoke. If you're thinking of using me to hurt Gail, you might be disappointed. She won't care about me. My voice was soft, quietly stating the facts. Vanessa toyed with a lighter, a brief flash illuminating her knuckles. Don't be so sure, she said. I turned to look at the rapidly passing street outside the window and smiled, remembering Gail when we were 17. In front of all our friends, she had laughed brazenly and contemptuously. She had said, Michael. I could never like Michael. When I was taken to get my hair styled and try on suits, Vanessa was there the entire time. Her discerning eye dismissed over a dozen custom suits as unsatisfactory. I didn't really want to attend the banquet, but with Vanessa insisting, I had no choice. Half a month ago, when I left the Liu family, I wasn't allowed to take anything with me. Mrs. Lee from the Lee family had temporarily taken me in, so whatever Vanessa wanted, I tried to comply. When I tried on a silver white suit, Vanessa's gaze finally settled. This one. I looked at the mirror and froze. The person in the reflection was both unfamiliar and familiar. He looked like the quiet boy who had always stood silently behind Gail, nondescript, easily overlooked, now suddenly striking and extraordinary. It was a version of myself I had never seen before. I reached out cautiously, touching the cold surface of the mirror. Someone who had always been close to Gail stared at me for a moment, then swore, "Damn, isn't that Miss Liu's plain-looking assistant?" As soon as the words were spoken, a wine glass shattered on the floor. I followed the sound. Gail stood not far away, her wine glass smashed, red wine soaking Peter's suit pants. Peter let out a low yelp, but Gail ignored him. She just stared at me, as if seeing me for the first time, dazed. This version of me left her stunned and unfamiliar. Peter finally recognized me, his expression one of disbelief. I nodded politely and began to socialize with Vanessa. Only then did Gail notice the woman beside me. Her warm gaze turned cold, inch by inch, as she walked toward us, reaching out to pull me away. Vanessa reacted quickly, raising her hand to block Gail and pulling me slightly behind her. Gail looked past Vanessa, eyes fixed on me. "Michael, come here." I had never taken anyone else's side in front of her, let alone hidden behind someone. Every time she called my name, no matter how far away, I would run to her. But now, things were different. I didn't move a single step back. Calmly, quietly, as I always spoke to her, I said, "I've done enough over the years." The midsummer breeze flowed through the windows. "Gail, we have nothing to do with each other anymore." Her face turned deathly pale in an instant. Midsummer is a season for encounters. I had been one of the children sponsored by the Liu family. It wasn't just me. Since the earthquake, Gil's mother had been helping rebuild our county. But the first time I went to the Liu family home was when I was 15. I had been the top student in the county's high school entrance exam that year and accompanied some officials to deliver local specialties as a token of gratitude to Mrs. Liu. Mrs. Liu was as gentle as I had imagined. She spoke with the adults about plans for the next year while taking countless phone calls. She seemed very busy. I stood aside and caught a glimpse of a photo on her desk. The girl in the photo looked about my age, with delicate features and impatient expression, the rebellious air of a princess. The butler knocked on the door, looking troubled. "Madam, the young miss has gone out racing motorcycles again." Mrs. Liu, still busy, nodded absently. "Go bring her back." One of the adults nudged me forward awkwardly. "Mrs. Liu, why don't let Michael go with them? He gets along well with his peers." Mrs. Liu's gaze fell on me. I curled my finger slightly, mustering courage. "I can do it." Even if I couldn't, I had to. I followed the butler to the winding West Mountain Road where Gail was. She was only 17. Her black and red motorcycle sped through the wind, and she didn't brake until she was close. Lifting her helmet, she revealed lazy cat-like eyes. "Hey, country boy, who are you?" I closed my eyes, face pale, almost thinking I was about to be run over. After a moment, I finally spoke. "I'm Michael." Her interest piqued. Her second question, "Mrs. Liu told me to bring you back." Her expression turned cold. Gail wasn't one to follow orders, but I was stubborn too. If she didn't leave, neither did I. I stood by the roadside, waiting. She completed one lap, saw me, did a second lap, and on the third lap, probably embarrassed, she threw down her bike and led me back. I followed, noticing her slender frame. The midsummer breeze blew gently. I remembered her name, Gail. Mrs. Liu wanted someone Gail's age to keep an eye on her, so she kept me around as Gail's sidekick, ensuring she didn't get into trouble. Gail, in her rebellious teenage years, particularly disliked me, seeing me as her mother's spy. She constantly made things difficult for me. Everyone knew that although Gail had countless romantic entanglements, there was always a quiet boy by her side, almost invisible, who stepped in only when she was being reckless. I focused on studying hard, meeting Mrs. Liu's expectations, and staying close behind Gail. This went on for 7 or 8 years. But I had a secret. The year I finished my college entrance exams, I stood beneath the jacaranda tree while Gail leaned against the courtyard railing. She spoke casually, yet her words squeezed my heart, peeling back my secret. "You like me?" I froze, unable to move. Jacaranda blossoms fell around me. After a long moment, I croaked, "Yes, I like you." Gail gave a slight smile and turned to leave. That night when I went to find her, I pushed open the door to a private room. Gail, eldest daughter of the Liu family, leaned back on the sofa, laughing indulgently. Her voice wasn't loud, but it felt deafening. "Who would like Michael? I like guys like Peter." That was the first time I heard Peter's name. I was 2 years behind Gail and had even skipped a grade in high school to attend her university. At that moment, I realized some things couldn't be achieved through effort alone. The 15-year-old Michael who first met Gail could never have imagined that years later, our relationship would still be strained. Even at someone else's banquet, we could cause a scene. This was Gail's first event since her recovery. She and Vanessa had never gotten along, so their entrance drew extra attention. Facing off, everyone secretly watched the drama unfold. I squeezed Vanessa's shoulder and said, "Let's go." Gail's eyelashes trembled. I avoided her gaze. For the first time in all these years, I told someone else, "Let's go." We walked a distance before I glanced back. Gail stood there, head bowed, fragility and coldness reflecting the same look she had after her car accident 2 years ago, back when Mrs. Liu, who had been in the car with her, was already gone. Peter tried to reach out, but a single glance from Gail froze him in place. I smiled slightly. Vanessa asked, "What's so funny?" I replied softly, "I just realized that not everyone can do it. Not everyone can endure Gail's low moods and her spoiled temper. Not everyone, after seeing her other side, would still choose to stay close. Especially during the time she was paralyzed. Gail, a proud daughter of heaven, couldn't accept that she had become disabled. She stopped smiling, lost all her vitality. On top of that, her only family, Mrs. Liu, had died in that car accident. At the time, she had no will to live and had tried to commit suicide multiple times. I smashed a glass and took a shard and pressed it hard against my wrist. "If you want to die, that's fine. I'll go with you." Gail had never seen such fierce emotion from me before. She stared at me with her dark eyes for a long time, almost through gritted teeth, and promised, "Michael, I will get better." From that moment on, she cooperated with the doctor's treatment. Finally, 2 years later, she stood up and left her wheelchair behind. After the banquet, I returned to the Lee family home with Vanessa. During this time, I had been grateful for Mrs. Lee's hospitality. I had been actively preparing my resume, planning to move out as soon as I found a job. To be honest, Vanessa and I weren't really close. Every interaction had been because Gail and Vanessa had fought, and I had to come to the Lee family to apologize on Gail's behalf. Mrs. Liu always received me warmly, fanning herself and saying, "Oh, it's no big deal. Kids fight sometimes. Come, sit down." I would sit there awkwardly for an entire afternoon, watching Mrs. Liu apply ointment to Vanessa's injuries, sunlight spilling across the room. It made me feel even more guilty. I never expected that in my need of help, it would be the Lee family who would lend me a hand. Vanessa and I aren't talkative people, so the car ride was particularly quiet. I felt uneasy, sitting upright like a schoolboy, my eyes avoiding everything except the road ahead. But when I glanced up, I caught sight of Vanessa through the rearview mirror. She seemed a bit tired, eyes closed, her long lashes making her look almost childlike. For a brief moment, the neon lights outside illuminated her face. Vanessa opened her eyes and caught me looking at her through the mirror. It was a little awkward, but not too much. I silently averted my gaze. Vanessa suddenly smiled. Michael, do you know what I thought the first time I saw you? How could I forget? She had shouted it right in front of Gail. I nodded. You asked me if I was blind, otherwise, why would I follow Gail around? Gail had been so angry she fought with Vanessa again. Vanessa shook her head, then closed her eyes. Outside, the traffic was endless. The car was silent so long I thought she had fallen asleep. But then I heard Vanessa's soft voice. Michael, do you know what I thought the first time I saw you? How could I forget? She had shouted it right in front of Gail. I nodded. You asked me if I was blind, otherwise, why would I follow Gail around? Gail had been so angry she fought with Vanessa again. Vanessa shook her head, then closed her eyes. Outside, the traffic was endless. The car was silent so long I thought she had fallen asleep. But then I heard Vanessa's soft voice. Michael, do you know what I thought the first time I saw you? How could I forget? She had shouted it right in front of Dale. I nodded. You asked me if I was blind, otherwise, why would I follow Gail around? Gail had been so angry she fought with Vanessa again. Vanessa shook her head, then closed her eyes. Outside, the traffic was endless. The car was silent so long I thought she had fallen asleep. But then I heard Vanessa's soft voice. Michael, do you know what I thought the first time I saw you? I thought Gail must have found the dumbest guy ever. Though dumb, you were very obedient. It had been a long time since I visited Mrs. Liu's grave. I brought a bouquet of white flowers to the cemetery. Gail had recently taken over the Liu Corporation, and not long after, a runaway truck had crashed into the Liu family's car, leaving one dead and one injured.
I lowered my eyes, watching a drop of dew on the flowers about to fall. Gail's paralysis has healed, and she's just like she used to be. The Liu Corporation is back on track. She got engaged recently, and the media made a huge deal out of it, calling it a once-in-a-century event. You'd know the groom, too. It's Peter, the boy Gail once brought home. They're very much in love, and everything seems to be moving in a good direction. Except for me. After all these years, I was still stuck in the same place, with no direction. The woman in the photo on the tombstone looked gentle, as if she had heard everything I said. I touched the photo. I've left the Liu Corporation. Would you blame me? Of course, there was no answer. The cemetery was silent. Death has no sound. I covered my face, tears seeping through my fingers. Except for those first few days, I hadn't really been happy here. Sometimes I think if I hadn't been the top scorer in that high school entrance exam, maybe I wouldn't have come here. I cried quietly for a while before gathering my things to leave. When I stood up, I noticed someone not far away watching me. I didn't know how long they had been there. I lowered my eyes. There was only one path out of the cemetery, and I had to pass by Gail. She must have come to see Mrs. Liu as well, but our timing was unfortunate. As I was about to walk past her, I heard Gail speak. Crying at my mom's grave, you... She hadn't finished her mocking words when I turned and looked at her, tears still lingering in my eyes. Gail swallowed the rest of her words. The truth is, Gail and I never had such a bad relationship. We'd only had 2 real falling outs. When I got tired of being her assistant and secretly sent out resumes, she found out and was furious. Not long ago, when she received an email, read it, and then kicked me out of the Liu family. One happened before the car accident, the other after. 2 years apart. But I wasn't as upset as I was back then. I just looked at her quietly and asked, on behalf of the boy I used to be, Gail, did you really think that because I never showed my emotions, I wouldn't feel hurt? Did you really think that no matter how much you messed around, I would always be like that 15-year-old boy following behind you? Gail pressed her lips together, her eyes dark. Her hand hanging by her side clenched and unclenched several times before tightening into a fist. She smirked sarcastically. Michael, you'll never be able to pay it all back. You killed my mom. Who are you trying to fool? Even on my way back, my mind was still in a fog. Gail had thrown a final chilling remark at me from her lofty perch. That car accident was not an accident. Guess who betrayed the Liu family? My inbox received an email. With trembling hands, I opened it. Inside were pieces of information gathered by Gail's people, all pointing to one conclusion: the car accident had been deliberate. At the time, Mrs. Liu and Gail were on their way to sign a major contract. Their whereabouts had been kept confidential, except from me. I was the only one who knew. I had grown up in the Liu family and had always been trusted. Among the attachments was a photo of me meeting someone from a rival company. The timing was suspicious, right before the accident, but the photo was fabricated. I didn't even know that person. In Gail's eyes, I was the only possible traitor. She didn't confront me. She had already sentenced me to death in her mind. I let out a bitter laugh, curling up in my seat. No wonder she had me draw up the proposal site plans one day, then told me to leave the next. No wonder she would rather chase after Peter than have anything to do with me. I closed the email, not even trying to defend myself, because I knew Gail wouldn't listen. The truth is, if she had dug a little deeper, she would have realized that I wasn't the only one who knew her whereabouts. Peter knew too. I hadn't slept this long in ages. Even before Gail's accident, I had quietly sent out resumes behind her back. Peter was too aggressive, and I was genuinely tired. He was the only official boyfriend Gail had ever had, and she spoiled him to the point where he was insufferable. He especially couldn't stand me. In the past, her other male friends had given me trouble, but none as intense as Peter. Can you imagine a boy in his early 20s being called a gigolo in front of the entire company? Peter did that. It was the days when Gail was negotiating contracts, and she and Mrs. Liu had kept their whereabouts secret, not even telling Peter. He couldn't reach Gail, but I knew where she was. He asked me, and I refused to tell him, even blocking him from entering the chairman's office. Everyone in the company knew he was Gail's favorite. I was the only one brave, or foolish enough, to stand in his way. Peter called everyone over to watch as he slapped me across the face. What did he say? "Michael, even if you stripped naked in front of Gail, she wouldn't look at you. Get out of my way. You think clinging to the Liu family is going to lift you out of that poor county you came from? Always hanging around Gail. It's disgusting, like a mistress." I hadn't done anything wrong, yet in that moment, under everyone's gaze, I felt stripped bare, humiliated. He barged into the office and saw Gail's schedule. The next day, Gail and Mrs. Liu had their accident. I never suspected Peter because Gail and Mrs. Liu treated him so well. But now I understand. Only those who are unloved carefully remember the kindness they receive, desperately thinking of ways to repay it. I am that kind of person. When I woke up, the world had changed. The top trending topic on Facebook was hashtag South City Liu family car accident conspiracy. People love gossip about rich families, especially since Pale's grand proposal had dominated online discussions not long ago. An insider revealed that Gail's car accident was not an accident, but a premeditated act orchestrated by a rival group. The insider claimed that Gail's assistant had leaked her whereabouts, a supposedly poor man who had been sponsored by the Liu family for years. The post included a photo of me meeting someone from the rival company, the same photo I had received in my email. The allegations were presented as undeniable truth, as if the accuser had witnessed it firsthand. Peter responded, far more subdued than before, smiling softly on camera. "Michael, I never liked him, but he was always around Gail. I even argued with Gail because of him. I never expected him to do something like this." His words subtly accused me of being ungrateful, a classic example of the treacherous poor man in a wealthy family drama. Gail stood beside him, expression indifferent. I had already seen the comments online. They took care of this assistant for so many years, and he turned out to be a traitor. Mrs. Liu must be heartbroken. Poor Peter had to put up with this assistant while he was dating Gail. Report him to the police already. He shouldn't get away with this. Who can dig up where this guy is now? What company would still hire him? I have to admit, it was amazing that Peter and Gail had made it this far. True love conquers all, right? Someone suddenly snatched the phone from my hand. I looked up and saw Vanessa staring at my pale face. "Stop looking at that. Grandma's calling us for dinner." My lips moved slightly as I tried to explain. It wasn't me. Vanessa didn't even pause. I know. She didn't just pay lip service. She truly believed me. Just as the online comments suggested, every interviewer who seemed interested in hiring me suddenly turned me down. If I couldn't clear my name, I'd probably be socially dead forever, never able to find work again. This was the outcome Gail wanted for me, a fate miserable enough to satisfy her anger.
The only company still willing to take me on was the Lee families, where I had sent my resume along with many others. But I refused. Vanessa was flipping through my resume without looking at me and asked, "Why?" I shook my head. My reputation is bad now. Any company that hires me will be thrust into the spotlight, and that wouldn't be good for the Lee family. Vanessa turned her head, quietly studying me for a moment before smiling with a hint of resignation. "Michael, you're so dense." "Dense about what?" I asked, confused. Before I could respond, the police arrived to take me away. The Liu family had reported me, and as a person of interest in the case, I was subject to interrogation. Before entering the interrogation room, I saw Gail and Peter. Their expressions were telling. Peter looked like a gambler going all in. I understood. After handling things so cleanly over the past 2 years, any evidence had likely vanished. The only obstacle between him and Gail now was me. Once locked away, he could truly rest easy, secure in the knowledge that their grand proposal was genuine and that their upcoming wedding would be the envy of many. Gail's expression, as she looked at me, was more complicated. I noticed her fingers unconsciously rubbing together, trembling slightly. She glanced at me, then turned her head away, eyes tinged with red. I averted my gaze and entered the interrogation room. In a matter of hours, the police had thoroughly investigated my entire life. In addition to that photo, more evidence pointed to me. Coincidentally, all too neatly, as if woven into a web meant to trap me. I was temporarily detained for 10 days. The case of the Liu family car accident had gained massive attention online. Conspiracy theories were spreading like wildfire, and authorities were taking it very seriously. They had gathered a significant police force determined to leave no stone unturned. During those 10 days, I didn't think about much. I hadn't rested this well in ages, sleeping deeply, soundly. On the 10th day, the truth came to light, and I was released without charges. This time, authorities found that in addition to the rival group responsible for the attack on the Liu family, another person was implicated. Peter. The net of justice may be vast, but it doesn't let anything slip through. The police cleared my name. The moment I stepped out of the city police station, I was bombarded by flashing lights so intense I couldn't open my eyes. Reporters seized the moment, thrusting microphones at me, bombarding me with questions. "Mr. Michael, what do you think of the news that it was actually Peter who betrayed the Liu Corporation?" "Mr. Michael, after all these years by Gail's side, was it because you had feelings for her?" "Mr. Michael, when Liu was paralyzed, the person who stayed by her side wasn't Peter. Who took care of her? Was it you?" I hardly caught my breath, but thankfully a hand pulled me away. Vanessa shoved a bunch of clearing flowers into my arms and carefully guided me into the car. As I got in, I glanced back. The media lights flashed chaotically. I saw Gail standing at a distance, looking exhausted and defeated, her expression fragile. I answered the last question from the media softly. No, the person who stayed by Gail's side then wasn't me. In those 10 days, so much had happened. The internet had initially been filled with curses and death wishes for someone like me. Then revelations began to pour in. The first ripple came from someone posting photos of Peter in Milan, exposing the lies he had woven. People quickly learned that when Gail had her accident, Peter had left her and flown to Milan. While he enjoyed a peaceful life, She struggled under the weight of her burdens. Their lives had been entirely separate. The love story everyone admired was rooted in the belief that he had stood by her during her darkest times. When it was revealed as a ploy, people were disgusted. The second ripple came from a video of Peter slapping me. The video was clear. I was humiliated, holding my swollen face while still trying to block Peter from entering Gail's office, only to be pushed to the ground. Peter had always presented himself as gentle and amiable, but in the video, his expression was wild, almost feral. His polished professional image, carefully cultivated through reality shows and social media, was shattered. Word spread quickly. Peter was too afraid to even answer his phone as everyone cursed him. More revelations surfaced, blurring the lines between truth and fiction. Then the police report came out, declaring me innocent. Peter became a wanted man. Such an official announcement carried more weight than anything. The interviewers who previously rejected me began reaching out again, but I turned them all down, including the Lee family. I received a call from my hometown. The old principal of my middle school, a woman as respectable as Mrs. Liu, asked if I would consider returning to teach to help support the county's education. I agreed. I made one last visit to the Liu family home. This time, no one could stop me. The things I had left behind were still there. I expected dust, but when I opened the door, it was clean and bright. Sunlight fell on freshly folded flowers on the table. I packed quickly, but hesitated when I opened the drawer. I reached into a hidden compartment and pulled out a photograph, an early one taken with an old camera. The girl in the photo was full of spirit, her hair blowing in the evening wind. She was laughing and playing with her friends, but for some reason, she turned back as if to check whether the person behind her was keeping up. It was a photo I had secretly taken of Gail when I was 17. At the time, I thought no one could capture the midsummer wind. But somehow, I managed to capture it in a photograph. I didn't take the photo with me. I left it on the table, leaving it to Gail's choice whether to keep it or throw it away. The jacaranda tree in the courtyard was blooming again, its branches hanging low. I stood there for a moment, admiring it. Gail stood behind me, calling my name softly. Michael. She called my name softly, as if afraid to disturb a dream. I turned around and smiled at her, calm, at peace. Her eyes were dark and bruised. Despite all the skincare and cosmetic treatments, her face was haggard. As the eldest daughter of the Liu family, I had never seen her look so cautious, almost humble. Her eyelashes trembled and her voice was hoarse. She sensed my calmness and raised her hand to slightly loosen her neckline. Her neck was thin and slender. She sensed a wave of dizziness and felt as though she could faint at any moment. Ever since I started recovering, I've been investigating the car accident. But when I found evidence pointing to you, I couldn't look any further. Just thinking about those pieces of evidence made it hard to breathe. I never thought you would betray us. Once that idea took root, I couldn't stop it. You understand, right? People like us get betrayed often. We're used to being stabbed in the back. But when it involved you, I couldn't handle it. Do you know what I thought when I was going through that information? I wish I had just died in that car accident. After that, I lost control and did all those terrible things. The grand proposal, it was all for you to see. She spoke a lot, detailing her inner struggles. I simply looked at her, my gaze clear, and softly interrupted, "No." Gail froze. I smiled faintly. You already knew you were wrong when you did it, but you thought it didn't matter, whether it was right or wrong, whether my betrayal was real or just a misunderstanding. No matter what you did, you believed I would forgive you. The truth is, I had always known that Gail hadn't been paralyzed and abandoned by everyone around her. She wouldn't have noticed me. Her gaze had always been on men like Peter. Even the ring she gave me didn't fit. She was silent for a long time. I thought it was just the shadow of a leaf falling to the ground. But it was her tears. She reached out, gripping my wrist, pleading, "I've been a jerk. One last time, can you forgive me?" The jacaranda tree cast dappled light and shadow around us. I remembered long ago, when I was 17, Gail had leaned against the railing, smiling lazily. "Michael, do you like me?" Now, I thought for a moment and gently pulled her hand away. "I won't forgive you." She saw the grayish-brown scar on my wrist. Her pupils dilated, her lips trembled, but she couldn't say a word. I spoke patiently, as if comforting a child. "Gail, your life was saved by Mrs. Liu in that car accident. You need to live well. The Liu Corporation was her life's work, and you need to protect it. I'm leaving here." Gail's face turned deathly pale, losing all color. In that moment, it felt as though her heart had been hollowed out. Someone she had always taken for granted was leaving her for good. The midsummer wind never looks back. Recently, Southtown has been in turmoil. The once celebrated couple at the center of the grand proposal is now branded as scumbags and a disgrace. Peter's wrongdoings have come to light, and Gail is seen as his accomplice. The Liu Corporation's stock has plummeted. For some reason, Gail crashed her car, breaking her leg, and is now confined to a wheelchair. I was on a bus back to the county when I received a message from Gail. She said, "I'll repay everything I owe you." I casually blocked her number. I turned to look out the window, the scenery passing by in a blur. The glass of